Well, here's what John seems to be saying. We know we are of the truth when we give to our poor brothers and sisters. But at times, the heart condemns us. Just like in Deuteronomy 15, it says, if you have a closed heart and you're giving begrudgingly and tight-fisted and you're not generous to the poor, you have a bad heart. So that heart needs to be not so much reassured, but persuaded, won over, overcome, conquered. In other words, that heart which is hard to your brothers and sisters needs to be won over so that it moves from stinginess to generosity. So I think John is saying that God is greater than our heart. Greater because he knows what's in our heart, yes. Greater also because he can conquer and overcome our hard hearts. He's greater to forgive us and greater to change us, which is the sense we get later in chapter 4. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. By the same token, we can overcome our lack of love because God is greater than our hearts, which is why I take verses 19 and 20, not so much as a comfort, though there's an element of that, and not strictly speaking just a conviction of sin, though there is that, but also a sense of conquering. That you say, God can transform even my hard heart. That when you struggle to show that sign of loving your neighbor as yourself, to love your brother and sister with tangible deeds of generosity, that God is there to conquer our hearts, to give us the generous spirit that we could not obtain on our own. That's why our hearts need to be persuaded. Some of you may need to be persuaded to give because you're stingy and you have your stuff and your money and you think, well, I've been working hard for this stuff. You don't know how long it's taken me to get out of debt, how long it's taken me to get this debt. You don't know how much I just need to hold on to it. And you need to be won over, and you need to be convinced that that's not the attitude of Christ towards his possessions. God freely gave of his Son. So ask yourself as a Christian, do I have a hard heart in some area of Christian discipleship? And I use the language of hardness deliberately. I don't just mean, do you think, well, I could pray more? Okay? We could all pray more. No one ever gets to the end of their life on their deathbed and says, you know what I regret? Praying so much. No, it does not happen. I'm glad I prayed as much as I could. No, okay, that's not what he's saying. Not just, well, I should evangelize more. I should be a better parent. Not just the more better. I mean, a hardness of heart. Not just a mess up and you sin sometime this week. But there's an area, there's a person in your life, there's just, your heart is calcified. It's stony. You just can't see anything good, just hard. Or there's an element of Christian discipleship. There's some part of God's moral law, and you say, nope, God, I'll give you all of my life. You know, that theologian once said, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Okay, I'm not going to give you that part of my life. I'm not going to submit everything to you. Is there a part of your Christian discipleship that is subject to a hard heart, some aspect of loving one another, forgiving one another, believing the best about one another? God knows. He sees everything. You think you can fool God? You can't fool God. You're probably not even fooling anyone else. The only person you may be fooling is yourself. So come to God. Tell him. He already knows everything. He sees everything. Come to him with your hardness of heart. He can forgive you. He can change you. He is greater than your heart.